So I watched Blade Runner 2049 earlier tonight, and I have some thoughts about it that I'm going to share with you, all of which are likely to be controversial. Some of the things that we know about Blade Runner, the first movie, that worked and didn't work was that there was a narration that some people loved and a narration that some people absolutely hated. There was a lot of people that worked on the film that hated it, Harrison Ford being one of them. And he tells this really strange and wonderful story in this documentary called Dangerous Days, which I believe is on YouTube. You can check it out. And he talks about his experience having to fly over to England to Pinewood Studios and sit in some office, and some strange man was going back and forth from the rooms, and he had to sit in some sound booth and just record this made up dialogue that was made up on the spot by some strange unknown man. And he would type it out, then give it to Ford, and then he would read it. Some people loved that. Like, I believe, I'm drawing a blank on all the celebrities and all the directors and all the people over the years. Guillermo del Toro. So Guillermo del Toro was one of them. There was a lot of people that loved it. And then, rightly so, there was a lot of people that hated it. It wasn't that I needed someone to explain the plot or the story or anything happening. That wasn't what the narration was. So many people that hated the narration thought that that's what was happening with the viewer, or that's what they were doing, or that's how it was being perceived. And that's not it. So that's not it at all. The reality was, it was just another layer, and it was a very intimate kind of introduction to the character's thoughts. Now, you might argue that you're not allowed to enter into that area of the character. You shouldn't be able to engage in sharing his thoughts or her thoughts. But in this reality, it was fascinating because the conversation was about being human, whether, a replicant was human or not. And Ridley Scott, much to Harrison Ford's dismay, kept telling Harrison Ford that he was a replicant, and Harrison Ford didn't want to hear about it. Over the years, over the decades, Ridley Scott has said he was a replicant. Harrison Ford didn't like it. Anyway, so 3 minutes in, I'm going to tell you that here are some of the controversial thoughts I have about Blade Runner 2049. First off, it struck me what a wonderful thing it would be if it had a narration. I know that's got to hurt some people, like, why would you say that? I think it would have been a really beautiful exposition. They would have hated doing it, but it would have been a really beautiful exposition and a journey into Agent K, Joe, his character. It would have been nice to see yet one more layer and, engage in that deep thinking, especially since they went out of their way to show you the dysregulation between him taking all of those stress tests throughout the movie where he was on point and then he wasn't. Hearing his thoughts, and that would have been fascinating. The other thing was the score. While some people loved it, and it was minimalist and it was brutalist, right? It's like the musical version of like brutalist architecture. I loved the sound design, all the noise and all the blah, 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 blah. It's fantastic. But to use the sound design as almost the soundtrack, I thought stole from the movie. So I probably would have gone back and dug up Vangelis's score, apparently, that he made for that, and see if there was anything usable, and then layer that in. Because, they layered it in a couple times. They layered it in when Joy tells him we're going to go to the child processing center, and then they layered in when he goes on the journey to Las Vegas, and then they layered it in at the very end. And I thought that was interesting. So, it was like levels of it where they just keep building, and then it's almost like a big delivery at the end. Like, oh, here's what you wanted the whole time. I thought that was weird. They should have just put it throughout and stitched the music through better. That would have been better. One, I think they needed the alternate ending, just like the first film. I was unhappy and unfulfilled with the ending that they left with. I've never thought until today what an alternate ending might be, but I know that there's people on the internet that have talked about it. Personally, I did not read any of that stuff and I've stayed away from it, but that would be fascinating to me to know about some of the alternate endings. And the fact that Harrison Ford fires at an unarmed opponent in both movies and has bad aim in both movies. You know, when he first gets to the casino, he fires on Agent K and he misses, and Agent K has got his hands up, right? So it's kind of like a theme, and I could hear Roy Batty's voice in my head rambling that line off. It's kind of unsportsmanlike to fire at an unarmed opponent, right? That's what I was thinking. So there are my initial controversial thoughts about Blade Runner 2049. Maybe I'll have some more tomorrow. So I'm going to post this. Be well, choose life, be kind to each other, practice kindness. What a day it's been today. Talk to you tomorrow.